This is the picture that launched 1,000 bands, changed thousands of lives, including my own. I remember getting this and just staring at it for hours, saying, who are these people? Who's that guy?
Well, you put Joey next to Robert Plant, and you see that what was regarded as the rock and roll archetypal god, Joey was quite far away from it. And yet, his fantasy, and the fantasy that he imbued to everybody, was that he could be Robert Plant. And in fact, when the Ramones were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, he is Robert Plant, you know, for a very strange generation.
When Little Steven was putting together this protest video against South Africa, Ain't Gonna Play Sun City, and there is this room full of big stars, huge egos. I don't want to mention names, but everybody's trying to be so cool. Everybody's ignoring each other. Everybody's like, I'm the coolest guy in the world. Joey walks in, and he immediately melts the ice. Everybody's like, Joey! People felt comfortable to talk to him, to shake his hand, to hug him. People loved him.
And this guy is so tall. And it just launched the whole style, just the white boat sneakers and the torn jeans and the leather coat, leather jackets. You know, when this came out, people were wearing sequin capes, skin-tight, shiny pants, and jumpsuits. They looked like clowns.
He came home from junior high school one day with a footprint on his chest. And I said, how did you get a footprint on your chest? He said, well, the big tough kids, they threw me down the stairs and they stepped on my chest. But he wasn't crying, he wasn't angry, he was just kind of accepted that the big rough kids would take advantage of him. He was very philosophical about it. And he started writing his little songs on little pieces of paper. Bags from the grocery store and, you know, whatever scraps of paper he could find.
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me.
Aan het begin van het boek Manhattan Transfer van John Dos Passos vraagt de hoofdpersoon aan de man die naast hem op de boot staat hoe ver het nog is naar de stad. Hangt er vanaf waar je moet zijn, zegt deze. The center is dan het antwoord. I want to get to the center of things. Van buitenaf gezien is het net een schip met 1000 masten Manhattan. Groot genoeg om de hele mensheid te dragen. Van binnenuit, vanaf de straat gezien, is het een oneindig labyrint. Met zijn gebouwen die de hemel proberen te strikken en avenues die horizon na horizon de zee beloven. Het grote schip moet het sinds 9/11 niet alleen zonder zijn 2 hoogste masten stellen, maar sinds een jaar ook zonder een van zijn langste inwoners. Tevens hart en ziel van de New Yorkse rock'n'roll scene. Joey Ramone, zanger van de Ramones, die op 15 april 2001 op 49-jarige leeftijd overleed aan de gevolgen van lymfklierkanker. Voor Joey, die afkomstig was uit het keurige Forest Hills in Queens, lag de center of things overigens niet op Broadway of Times Square of bij Central Park, maar downtown in de Lower East Side. Een buurt die al 1,5 eeuw berucht stond om zijn diepe armoede, misdaad en overconsumptie aan drank en drugs. Maar ook als broeinest voor anarchisten, kunstenaars, vuilnisbakprofeten en muzikanten. Een ideale plek kortom voor de doorstart waar de rock'n'roll begin jaren 70 zo vreselijk hard aan toe was.
I started CBGB's about 28 years ago, over 28 years ago. When I was fixing the place up, these people would line up at 8 in the morning and they'd stagger in for their first white port or muscatel. And if they made it to the bar before they fell on the floor, it was good.
I know it's hard to believe, but there was a time around the turn of the 1970s when there was no rock and roll band scene in New York. It wasn't until the New York Dolls started an indigenous scene in late 1971, maybe early 72, that you had a place for local musicians to kind of gather. And they birthed a glam rock scene of maybe 6, 7, 8 bands, mostly based around the Mercer Street Arts Center. But it gave the scene a certain focus. Around 1974, that kind of came to an end, and the musicians needed a place to play. For a while, they played over the Club 82 on East 4th Street, and by that time, television walked by this bar on the Bowery called CBGB's for Country, Bluegrass, and Blues, that they thought might be a place where they could set up shop and learn how to play their instruments, essentially. And that was the kind of magnetizing influence on the local scene. You always need a place to play.
Ramones were not like Patti Smith or television or Blondie or the Talking Heads, the Shirts, Mink DeVille. I mean, everybody was very different. They were doing their own thing, and it was their own way of expressing themselves. And that's what I liked. We didn't call it punk then. We tended to call it street rock because nobody dressed up to come and play here. They just came in their torn jeans and T-shirts. The first hole in the T-shirt, I guess Richard Hell, I think of, developed a hole. He didn't change it, he just put a safety pin in it. So there you had a new style. I think when you've had thousands and thousands of bands, a lot of people through the years, and a lot of people who became famous, who, when people get up on the stage, they think, well, this is right where Joey Ramone stood. It has a magic, mainly because of the people who've been here.
I was listening to the rain. I was hearing.
I think it's like a feeling of all these spirits are still here. I think the thing that I remember most is that they were absolutely awful. and Joey, of course, Joey was, it's this tall. I guess he was about 6'6". I think he was 6'5", 6'6", and very, very, very thin, and long hair, and he was very different looking. I mean, he was always very quiet. He was very quiet. Johnny was the talker and yeller. I think Tommy sort of kept it together. He was actually a pretty good drummer. Very good drummer, actually. Dee Dee couldn't play bass. But he was okay. He looked good and he had fun, But that was the first time, and I said I'd never have them back again, but I did, obviously. And they got better and better and better.
Dee Dee lived in that building. Tommy lived in the building that you can see the corner of down there. And John lived in this building. So you got Johnny over there. And you got me and my brother down there. Dee Dee right across the street that way, and Tommy across the street the other way. This is where we all used to hang out when we were teenagers. We would all meet up on this thing that we called the ramp. Everybody just used to hang out here all night. You know, smoke pot and whatever else we could find to get high on, sniff glue, whatever, you know. And yeah, everybody would just hang until, you know, people would start complaining, and people's parents would be yelling, you know, the cops would come and chase us away, and then we would come back a half hour later. And now, as you can see, it's all barbed wired up. And I guess they don't let you hang out here anymore, huh? No? Can't go up there and play anymore.
Yeah.
No. This is Forest Hills High School. This is where we both went to school. My brother, of course, before I did. And we were like really crazy hippies, you know? And we're talking about like 1969, 70. And we were kind of freaks of the neighborhood. And most of the Forest Hills kids were just wanted to, you know, get jobs with their fathers, and they had to be good. You know, we looked like people said, you and your brother look like you're about to fall apart at any minute, you know. Holes in everything, and tie-dyed, and fringes, and my brother would come walking out of this door, and I'd be standing here with some people, and people would go like, everybody would point like, man. They'd say, who's that freak? You know, I said, that's my brother, you know. It was a little strange, you know, to have people pointing and laughing at, then you say, yeah, that's my brother, and they go, oh, you know. Yeah, he was very alienated at that particular time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Voordat Joey Ramone werd, was hij Jeffrey Hyman. Zoon van Charlotte, die in kunst deed, en broer van Mickey, die lange tijd in alles beter was geweest dan hij. En hij verafschuwde elke fanatiek schoongeveegde stoeptegel, van elke van zelfgenoegzaamheid glimmende straat, waar hij in Forest Hills met zijn spinnengang op weg naar huis doorheen moest. Hij voelde zich een alien ten opzichte van al die mensen die hier elke avond met een zucht van verlichting de deur achter zich dichttrokken. Blij dat het grote monster van Manhattan ze ook deze keer weer niet had verzwolgen. Terwijl hij, Jeffrey, vooral als Joey, niets liever wilde dan juist verzwolgen worden. En als een pinball door de straten van de stad stuiteren. Weggeschoten door het 1, 2, 3, 4 van Didi. Dat het heilige 1, 2, 3, 4 van de rock'n'roll was. Waarin al het dwangmatige getel dat hij als kind tot gekmakens toe had gedaan, tegelijk zat opgesloten en werd opgeheven.
After Joey was born, I sort of stayed home, and then I had Mickey, and then I was sort of home with bringing up my kids. And then I got divorced, and I remarried, and my second husband was killed in an automobile accident. So then I was bringing up my kids really myself. He was a very, very, very sweet, very shy, rather on the timid side. He, other kids could beat him up. He had weak eyes. He wore eyeglasses from the time that he was about 5 years old, and he wasn't a fighter. He got taken advantage of a lot. He got very tall and very skinny early on. When he was about 3, he shot up. And he was so tall that they put him in the back of the classroom, and he couldn't see the blackboard, and he was too shy to tell the teacher. So he had trouble learning how to read until we got him eyeglasses. Found out that he was extremely myopic. His coordination was poor because of his eyes and because he was so gangly. And he wasn't athletic. His brother was the athletic one, and he was good at everything, so there was a little friction there because Mickey was the cute, athletic, charming one, and Joey was the shy one. But they both had the love of music. They both wanted it. Joey wanted drum lessons, and Mickey wanted guitar lessons, and I gave them to them. They used to play at it when they were really little, but then as they grew up, they wanted the music, and I was happy to let them have it. I used to play classical music for them. I wanted them to enjoy classical music, but they wanted they wanted the other stuff. They wanted rock and roll.
Too many teardrops for one heart to be crying. Too many teardrops for one heart to carry on. You're way on top now since you left me. You're always laughing.
That's the house right over there.
It's that big, but it goes all the way back.
On this front lawn, we would have chicken fights. Chicken fights are like one guy climbs up on the other guy's shoulders, and you have two guys on two guys' shoulders, and the idea was to knock somebody over. And of course, I had an advantage because I had a brother that was taller than everybody, so we would win a lot of the chicken fights. Actually, one thing we actually would win. Except for that one day
when you fell and hit your head on that
sprinklers. One of the other kids got mad because we kept winning the chicken fights. So as we were walking away, he kind of tripped me. I split my head open, and they rushed me to
14
the
stitches
doctor.
later, yeah. Mickey got picked up once for smoking marijuana in the park, and I said, I don't want you guys smoking out there and getting picked up by the cops, because the cop brought him back to the house. And I said, if you have to smoke, then smoke it here, and teach me how to smoke it. So they did.
Right over there, see with those hedges, that house? What happened was, there was this one guy that used to give us a really hard time, give my brother a hard time, really. And he would stick us up every day for money or whatever he could get. And one day, we had this little plan to try and make peace with this guy. So we rolled this big fat joint, and we gave it to him over there. And then he said that he just left us alone for the day. The next day we thought everything was okay, and he said, you know, give me some more of that, man. You know, I want more. Or, you know, he actually pulled the knife and said, I'll cut your pockets open. You know, whatever you got in there is going to be mine. And he just, we had nothing for him at the time, so he just pushed us both in the hedges. And then some friends of ours saw what was happening, and then they they kind of came to our aid, and we didn't have any more trouble with this guy. But it was called the Bush Club. You know, you joined the Bush Club. Somebody pushed you in the hedges, and that was called joining the Bush Club. So that was the day we joined the Bush Club.
In his late teens, he was angry. He was angry because he realized people used to push him around and take advantage of him.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He had little problems. He had a little OCD, you know, obsessive compulsive behavior. He would have to do things over and over and over again. And at that time, I think he became angry and a little depressed over it. But that's when he started with the music. For a while there, he didn't know what to do with himself. At one point, he ran off to California. That was his barefoot stage. He walked around barefoot. He was a hippie.
He was a hippie.
Yeah. And he went off to California and was sort of living on the streets barefoot, and that's when he stepped on something and got an infection in his foot. And he, from that point on, he always had trouble with his feet. He told me once that he thought he would just wanted to kill himself. And that's when I took him to a psychiatrist. And it was a very short period that he put him on medication, and he came out. He seemed to be straightened out a little more than he never said again that he wanted to destroy himself. But he knew that he didn't want to come back to Forest Hills, and he stayed in Manhattan.
I think when he became Joey Ramone, Jeffrey Hyman sort of disappeared. You know? He really was Joey Ramone at that point. And Jeffrey Hyman was just a kid from Queens who had a rough time growing up, you know? And Joey Ramone is a rock star.
1, 2, 3, 4.
En opeens was het van hey ho, let's go. Met hun goedkope gitaren in plastic tassen van de buurt super gestoken, denderden de Ramones op een dag met de G-trein binnen 20 minuten vanuit Forest Hills bij 6th Avenue en 8th Street Manhattan binnen. Een reis die precies evenveel tijd in beslag nam als alle nummers op hun eerste LP bij elkaar. 14 van boom tot ho in de hoogste versnelling gespeelde minimalistische meezingers, waarin de onschuld van de girlgroups en de Beach Boys gepaard werd aan de frontale gitaaraanvallen van de Stooges en de MC5. En die klonken als een zenmeester met een verstopte neus en een cirkelzaag. Bij het horen ervan zijn alle bezwaren die er tegen je bestaan zijn ingebracht, dat je te dom bent of te slim, te lelijk of te raar, te wild of te stil, te gewoon of te anders, in één triomfantelijke zwaai van tafel geveegd. Gabba gabba hey, en de wereld zou nooit meer hetzelfde zijn.
I'd say Joey definitely got what he wanted. He wanted to be in a world-class rock and roll band that no matter where you went on this planet, people would know how to play I Want to Be Sedated. I'm sure that he got enough pieces of underwear thrown at him on stage where that great classic rock and roll fantasy about how I get in a band to get girls, I'm sure he got the girls. I'm sure he had nights of partying and nights of just sitting backstage exhausted from the amount of energy he put out, knowing he'd given his all to the audience. That, to me, is what rock and roll is about.
There's a line in it goes, nothing to do, nowhere to go, ho, I want to be sedated, right? Well, where that stems from was when we were we were really big in England back in '76, right? And we were there at Christmas time, right? And Christmas time, London shuts down. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. I mean, we're in London for the first time in our lives, and, you know, I mean, being big fans of, like, the Beatles, all that stuff, the Stones, you know, being in England for the first time. And me and Dee Dee, we were sharing a room in the hotel, and we were watching the Guns of Navarone. So we had nothing to do. There was nothing. I mean, here we are in London finally, and this is what we're doing, you know, watching American movies in the hotel, you know. All right, I'll sing it for you now. I have to stand because I can't sit singing.
Here we go.
24 hours to go. I want to be sedated. And nothing to do, nowhere to go. I want to be sedated. Just get me to the airport and put me on a plane. Hurry, 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 before I go insane. I can't control my fingers, can't control my brain. Oh no, oh, 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 oh. 24 hours to go. I wanna be sedated. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. I wanna be sedated. Just put me in a wheelchair, get me on a plane. Hurry, 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 before I go insane. I can't control my fingers, I can't control my brain. Oh no, oh, 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 oh.
I mean, that's the point of a Ramones show, is that you have these geeks. No way, shape, or form. They're just like strange people, and yet you go on affirming, you know, these are sideshow people who have been able to make their world seem like the normal world, and you're the freak. And you want to join their happy family.
To Joey, trying to look cool wasn't about narcissism or vanity. It was survival. And he became a master of it. He was somebody that never stopped fighting, that had to fight from the very, very beginning. And that made him very sympathetic to the underdogs, to the lonely, desperate, frustrated young guy. I don't think he was a lonely person. I don't think he suffered from loneliness. He had successful relationships. He had very successful relationships. Sweet, caring, beautiful little women. They were short most of the time. I mean, compared to him, almost anybody's short, but it was really cute sometimes to see some of the girls, like how short they were and how cute and delicate.
Joey would live with a girl. You know, she would move into his apartment. Maybe for a couple of years, they'd have a relationship, and then when they got a little, they'd start pressuring him a little, you know, for marriage and that sort of thing. He would buy them an engagement ring and give them some money and tell them goodbye. So he did that a few times with a few of the girls. But he could never commit himself to one long-term relationship. And I think he was too busy. And they were always traveling, you know, for the 22 years, 23 years they traveled. Okay. He loved toys, and he was always bringing them back from Japan. This is the baby Godzilla in the egg, right? And this is a clock from Japan. Side, and that he's saying, wake up and walk your dog. This is the bird. That's also from Japan. This, I think, was from Sweden. He was feeling very artistic there. I was glad when he was gone because I'd say to him, well, you're going to be on tour for 4 weeks? Good, now I can go to your apartment, clean your apartment, and get it to smell good again, and clean up the mess, and get ready for the next onslaught. Because somebody had to keep him together. He was very sloppy. And he would hate it if I would take things out of wherever he knew where everything was. He could have piles of this, that, and the other thing, and he'd say, don't touch my papers, don't touch my lyrics, I know where everything is. And he always knew where everything was, but he was so messy.
There's a world where I can go and tell my secrets to. In my room, in my room. had to go, he had to pass on, he couldn't hang around.
Toen Joey stierf had ik al 15 jaar nauwelijks meer aan de Ramones gedacht. Het was goed te weten dat ze er nog waren. En het feit dat ze er op een gegeven moment niet meer waren, veranderde daar eigenlijk weinig aan. Ze waren tot de klassieken gaan behoren. Het beeld van Joey Ramone als zingende microfoonstandaard en onbeweeglijk oog van de storm te midden van het geluidsbombardement van Johnny, Dee en Tommy was voor eeuwig vastgelegd als een van de archetypes van de rock'n'roll.
Along about 94, we found out that he had lymphoma. And in the early stages, it was just doctor's visits once a month.
He was always ill. There was always something wrong with him, but we didn't find out about the cancer until 96. When we stopped touring, everybody had agreed to stop. I kept trying to keep them going. I wanted to go 25 years at least. 25 years sounded better to me than 22 years. But Joey's doctors kept telling him, we have to start your treatments. You cannot tour anymore. But he didn't tell us. He wasn't telling us. We didn't know.
The turning point for him was the day last year when he fell on the ice and broke his hip. And that put him in the hospital. And then they had to stop the thalidomide because it was interfering with the Coumadin, which was a blood thinner. And it just threw his whole system into an uproar. And he had started walking, with help. He was in physical therapy and he was starting to walk again. And then he started developing fevers, and that was the turning point. I don't think he ever thought he was going to die, and I never thought he was going to die.
Het vreemde was dat de dood van Joey pas goed op mij doordrong toen ik zijn postuum uitgebrachte solo-LP hoorde. En er uit de striptekening van de Ramones in mijn hoofd opeens een individu van vlees en bloed naar voren stapte. Jeffrey Hyman, I presume. Of nee, Joey Ramone, nu met hoofdletters, vocalist, eenling, sterveling. Een man die regelmatig flink te grazen was genomen door het leven, maar nooit te trots was geweest om zich niet na elke klap als een rubberbal terug te laten kaatsen. Een man die door zich van de domme te houden zowel de normaliteit als de gekte te slim af was geweest. Een man die ook als grote jongen kind was gebleven, zoals hij als rock'n'roll-held ook altijd fan was gebleven van de muziek die hem zo vaak het leven had gered. Een buitenbeen bij wie iedereen zich thuis voelde. Als Joey een Ramone kon zijn, konden wij het allemaal.
Joey had wanted to make a solo album for probably 10 or 15 years, I think the first time the Ramones rejected one of his songs, he started thinking, I'm going to do my own record one day. And the Ramones worked very fast in the studio, and Joey sort of liked to take his time on things. So when the Ramones retired in '96, it was just an obvious step for Joey to go to work on his record. So he dove right in and we started collecting songs and making demos and put a band together. And we started recording like 96, 97. And then it took about 2 years to do all the vocals because we worked here in my house. And Joe's health was, compromised a little bit. So we took our time. And when he felt good, that's when we sang.
he was his own boss. He wasn't taking orders from anybody else. He was doing his thing, and he was doing it his way. And I think he really felt wonderful about that.
Psychedelic. Yeah. Now this song, it's autobiographical. One day Joey woke up and his fax machine was going haywire and his phone was ringing and no one was there and doorbells were ringing and there's all these weird noises. So he called me up and he goes, I think there's a spirit in my house. And then the next day he came out with the song, There's a Spirit in My House. And it ain't no mouse.
Some of the songs he had written a long time ago, and they were just there, you know, in that pile of don't touch this and don't touch that, you know. But he had an idea of what he wanted to do, but feeling the way he did at that time brought in a lot of the little nuances of some of the songs, you know, like he used to say to me, you know, that all the medications that he had to take made him punchy, you know, and I always felt that that's where Mr. Punchy came from.
I'm Mr. Punchy. I'm Mr. Punchy. I'm Mr. Punchy. I'm Mr. Punchy. La 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 la.
And Joey lived right over there. See his house out the window. So it was very convenient, you know. He could come over whenever he felt like it to sing. And we didn't have the pressure of having to book a studio and worry about the clock and the time and stuff. I'd set up a little vocal booth right over there in the corner, because all you need is a microphone and, you know, one channel. Joey had a definite idea of what he wanted the record to be. You know, he was every little guitar part or background vocal he, you know, was right on top of, and we would listen to it for hours and talk about it for hours and just make everything right. So we finally finished all the recording when Joey got very sick at the end, and we started mixing right before he went to the hospital for the last time. So he got to hear some of the mixes and gave me some comments on them. So, and then I mixed the record after Joey had passed, but we had talked about it so much, I knew exactly how he wanted it to be.
My favorite track on the new album is his version of Wonderful World. I saw him sing it at the last time I saw him perform at the Continental the December before he fell. It really struck me that it was a perfect song for Joey to transform into his 8 beats to the measure. It's such a positive and song that delights in life, that has a sense of life's grandness and hope. And I know perhaps he had his moments of despair toward the end, as we all do when we look at what happens after the final encore. But he loved life up until the end. I get that sense from his album, no matter how much the guitars mess. And I know that it was a way for him to take away the pain of his illness and convert it into art. And for Joey, he was a rather strange human being who might not have fit anywhere else in society, but he was able to find a way to become himself. And that really is a great treasure, and one we could all probably learn to live from.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I say to myself, What a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, bright sunny days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow are so pretty in the skies, are also on the faces of people walking by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see babies cry. Oh, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world.
The poem is simply called Joey, and Didi wrote it shortly after Joey died. He says, I like dragons so much that I look up at the sky and try to see one. I spotted one immediately. It was a sea dragon, disguised as the tip of a cloud, framing itself in a beautiful blue sky. Imagine one flying over one of the meadows high above New York City's Central Park. One crowded Sunday afternoon. Maybe this dragon could be Joey Ramone. He would have two flashing and loving eyes and would wink down at everybody staring up at him in amazement. Then he would spread his fiery wings and fly towards the sun to California to be with me and John. I don't see why not he could be a beautiful dragon. He would be a golden amber one with a silver lining ambience radiating from his body and his wings. Signed, Didi Ramone. Isn't that beautiful?